Alright, welcome to One Water, One Coffee, One Lesson. Today we're going to talk about backpacks again. This is going to be another gear episode. Instead of really focusing on the backpacks themselves, we're going to talk about what goes into my backpack. So, to start with, here is my 55-liter go-to backpack. As I've talked about previously, this is big for most day touring scenarios, although I've kind of decided this is the pack for me for midwinter ordinary day tours. And I'm going to talk about why that is, and I'm going to talk about what goes into this huge backpack and why. So, as I've said before in other episodes, if you're out in the middle of winter, late January, February, and there's deep snow, and it's cold, and the days are short, your margins for dealing with bad problems are slim. There's been a few times where I was out touring with one person or another, somebody got cold because it was genuinely cold out, and it happened fast, and it was alarming. And it became clear that the only choice was to turn around and leave. And that's fine. If you're out touring and somebody is having a problem, you just go home. You can go touring again another day. But what that made clear to me is that if we were out touring, somebody suddenly got cold and we couldn't turn around and leave, we'd be up a creek. A few occasions in the deep backcountry, in high wind, bad visibility, really cold temperatures, kind of led me to rethink my midwinter touring configuration. And this is what I arrived at. This is a really feature-rich, almost expedition-style backpack. Super beefy suspension. I won't go into huge details about that. It's huge, 55 liters, dedicated compartments for crampons, climbing skins, ice axes, heavy tools, the whole 9 yards. Sled loops. Okay, so this is a very feature-rich and large backpack. At some stage of the game, I realized I wanted to have more clothing with me. I wanted to have basically enough clothing to be able to just lay down in the snow and wait indefinitely. And with this, you can do that. And once again, very robust suspension. You can do this comfortably. This thing can be full. And it's not terrible to carry for 7, 8, well, who knows, 10 miles. I've done, plenty of 7+ mile tours with this backpack. You're gonna get strong, but it carries pretty well. So, and once again, if you or somebody in your touring party is having a problem and you can't continue, or you happen to be out for way longer than you expect it to be, this backpack is capable of carrying everything that you need to be outside in the middle of winter for a long time. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go through packing this backpack for a typical day tour in the high country in deep snow, and I'll talk about why I put everything that I put into here and what order it goes in. So let me loosen up all the compression straps so that it's easy to load, and we'll get to it. So, first things. The hands and the feet are the most prone to having like a real problem in extreme cold. In particular, my hands, I seem to have poor circulation, so I always have a couple extra pairs of gloves. Being able to have your hands not frozen solid is a huge morale boost and is gonna save you from getting frostbite. So here we go. These things right here. These are 8,000 meter mitts. Like, you could probably climb Mount Everest in them. I've never put these on and found that my hands were cold for more than, a few more minutes after I put them on. Usually, if I've put these on, I have to take them off because I'm too hot. So if you're truly immobilized, if somebody has broke something or having some kind of a problem, you can't go any further, you know, this is the mitt for you. If you're doing a terrible bivvy someplace awful, this is the mitt for you. I can talk about these a little bit. They've got a liner. You can pull the liner out so you can dry this off. They've got leashes so you can lash them to yourself and you're not going to drop them. Not the most dexterous, but pretty comfortable and extremely warm. This is pretty much the first thing that goes into my backpack. I'm not really going to need these days, right? Let me just set that aside right there. You load the backpack in the order that you're likely to pull it out in. So I really don't think I'm going to need these. These are here for an emergency. Same is true for this stuff right here. So what's this? Here's a bivy sack. It's just a cheap REI bivy sack. You can lay down in the snow inside of it and not get wet. It's a waterproof, breathable membrane, meaning that it's actually not that breathable, but it is pretty waterproof. And it keeps you warm, right? I mean, there's not that much to it, but wrapping yourself in this thing, you're in a little cocoon and it keeps you warm. So if you're stuck overnight or if you've blown your knee and you're just laying in the snow, get inside of it, put all your clothing on, get inside the bivy sack, lay down, you're gonna be well enough until somebody can come rescue you. Here's a dog rescue sling, right? We tour with our dogs a lot. If one of them has a problem, I can carry this like a backpack and carry the dog in the sling, right? And here's a bivy sack, or excuse me, here's a sleeping bag in there. In lieu of bringing an actual sleeping bag, I just bring this little fleece sleeping bag liner. Some ultralight sleeping bags are probably about this big too. This is cheap and I don't really care about that much, so I can bring it around, you know, whenever. So all of this stuff goes in the very bottom of the backpack. I don't actually ever take this out because I've never been in a complete catastrophe emergency. But you know, it's good to know that it's there. You never know, like where I tour, it's crowded, you run into people, sometimes somebody's having a problem. It's just a good feeling to know that you have all the stuff you need to be able to make a meaningful difference if you come across somebody who's having an emergency, or if you're the one who's having an emergency. So here we go, let's start loading this up. Bivy sack. In fact, I think I want to do these gloves first because they kind of conform and swoosh down. Alright. Alright, great. So, we've just taken a tremendous amount of useful stuff, and this backpack is like not even 20% full. Maybe 20% full. Okay, what next? So, I usually tour in a pair of shell pants. Under my shell pants, I have a normal pair of Capilene long johns, and that's it. I'm usually way too hot. I have the side zips wide open. I don't really wear that much insulation while I'm touring because I run hot. Even if it's 10 degrees out, I'm still running hot. If I have to stop for a while, then I get cold. So once again, what if you have to stop for a while and you weren't planning on it? You didn't expect to have to stop. You thought you were just touring for the whole day and then going home. You need to be able to stand around indefinitely in the event of an emergency. So now we talk about like the serious layers. So here's a pair of belay pants. This is Mountain Hardwear. You can get these in, you know, other manufacturers, but this is PrimaLoft, so it's not down, it's light down, it's a little bit less fluffy, a little bit less warm, but it does better if it gets wet. So, you know, potentially being crawling around in the snow because you were injured or somebody else was injured, and you're down on the ground dealing with that situation. Or if you're just out camping, right? You're digging out your campsite, you know, doing whatever camp chores. It's not really that cardiovascular. You're just standing around in the cold, potentially getting a little bit wet. The PrimaLoft is better than the down. It's not as packable, but it's cheaper and it does better if it gets a little bit wet. So these are my so-called belay pants. You know, you're meant to use these while you're standing around in a belay position while climbing, ice climbing, I guess. But I think they're a great addition to the ski touring pack, especially if you have the intention to actually go winter camping. So they have full-length side zips. This is a really important feature because it allows you to get them on and off without taking your ski boots off, which you're not, you know, usually going to want to do. If it's the middle of the day, you just want to be able to jump into them. If you're going to bed and getting into the tent, that's one thing. Sure, you can undress, but like if it's the middle of the day, you're not wanting to take the ski boots off because you just need those. So belay pants. That goes in next. Don't expect to need these unless the shit hits the fan or if you start camping. So here we go. The backpack is slowly getting somewhat more full. Okay. The next thing, much like the belay pants, this is a heavy down parka. This is actually down. It's more packable, it's warmer, more expensive, doesn't do very well when it gets wet, but if you actually need a jacket like this, it's probably not going to get wet unless you're rolling around in the snow, so don't do that. But this is a really warm jacket, especially for the money. If you put this on over everything else you've got, you're just going to be warm. This is one of those jackets where I've infrequently put it on and been cold. More often than not, I put it on and realize I'm too warm. So if you're camping or if you're going to get into an emergency situation, you know, this is kind of critical. Keeping the core, torso, you know, your organs warm is pretty important. One nice feature about this is the shoulders are made out of a beefier material than the rest of this silky nylon material. So as you're pulling your backpack straps on and off, it doesn't ruin the jacket. So anyway, down jacket. The other thing that I do with this jacket, in one of these pockets in here, I keep a neoprene balaclava. This is the stuff sack. And this is neoprene balaclava. You know, if you're in the sort of conditions where you need this jacket, you might also need the balaclava. If you don't need this jacket, you probably don't need the balaclava. So I just keep them together. If I have to pull one out, I probably need the other. That's my thinking. Usually neither of them gets used. On rare occasion, I pull this out because I'm standing around longer than I thought. If an emergency happened, same story. You've got this thing. You're probably going to be pretty warm if you put on everything else. So here we go. This goes into here. At long last, this backpack is starting to get kind of full. I'm smushing this down jacket into here. So now we're kind of coming to the end of the stuff that I don't expect to use and into the stuff that I do expect to use. So now it's kind of at your discretion, depends on what kind of a day it is probably. So what else do you typically bring ski touring? Helmet and goggles, a light down jacket, you might actually use this. Of course, your shell jacket. I run warm, I usually start wearing my shell jacket and nothing other than my base layer, and then immediately realize I'm too hot, so I put this away. So this has to go into the backpack somewhere. A hat, maybe. Usually I just wear a ball cap. And then a couple of pair of warm gloves that you might actually use while you're skiing. Alternatively, if you're doing a steep snow climb, you probably want a nice pair of warm leather gloves because your hands are going to be in the snow a lot. So a couple pairs of gloves, at least one, maybe two. And then of course you need touring gloves. So you're usually just wearing these. And then when you start skiing or when you start a steep snow climb, you swap out the touring gloves for these. But you still need all of this, and it all needs a place to go. So the next thing, unless it really, really is extremely cold out, probably not even using the light down jacket. So the light down jacket goes in next. More likely to use this than a heavy down jacket. Still not very likely to use it. Next goes the helmet. You're not going to need the helmet until it's time for the ski touring or time for the skiing. Hat, gloves, and shell jacket. And now it's pretty much full, but if somebody breaks their leg and you have to sit in the snow for 5 hours while a helicopter comes and figures out how to get you, everyone's going to be comfortable. Or at least the person who's injured is going to be comfortable. And that's the most important thing. So now, this thing's full. Once again, 55 liters, it's hardly overloaded. I haven't floated the lid up. And there's ample exterior carrying capacity. And I'll actually take a moment to talk about that now. So here's the crampon pouch or the climbing skin pouch. You all know it goes there. If it's very cold out, I like a thermos. You always want to bring actual water too, because if it's too hot to drink your thermos and you're thirsty, you need something. But if it's very cold out, putting a little bit of warm liquid into your belly is just going to make you so much happier. So you can put this here. As I've said previously, this is an acceptable place for this, but it's not the most convenient. You kind of have to either take your backpack off or like take one shoulder strap off so you can fish it out. So, you know, if you don't want to do that, you use one of these accessory pods. And this backpack has tool loops on either side. You know, these are meant to be multi-purpose. One thing you can do is you can carry your skis in an A-frame or an H-frame capacity. Although what I usually do is I put my thermoses here. So I'll show you exactly how I do that right now. So I've got two of these things. What I'll do is I'll do one side water and one side either hot chocolate or tea or something of that persuasion. If it's really, really cold out, or if it's not cold out, it's just two waters, assuming I actually need that much water. So this thing is like this. It's right next to your hand while you're wearing it, so you can grab it and unzip it with relative ease. Okay, so I'll put the other one on too, just for kicks. All right, so there's that. I think this one's big enough for a thermos. Pretty close. Okay, so now what? That's our water. Now, do we need, you know, whatever other accessories you want? With this particular backpack, what you can do, which I really like, is use these tool loops to put my camera pods. So the camera can go here. A couple of GoPros can go here. And this stuff is all at your fingertips. So if the weather's awful, you just put all these cameras away and you don't have to worry about snow and ice building up on the lens. They're tucked away someplace relatively safe with a little bit of insulation and a little bit of padding. If the weather's good, I have a camera clip, capture clip, that I plop my camera on the shoulder strap. That way it's right here. I can just pull it off, take some pictures, put it back on. If I'm skiing, especially if I'm skiing in the woods, I can take the camera off and put it back into this big holster camera pod. And there's a lot less chance, you know, I've like fallen, I've crashed, hit rocks or trees or whatever and crashed. And, you know, with my camera in here, it remains safe even if I'm crashing. So while you're skiing, you probably want to put the cameras away, unless it's something rugged like a GoPro. And of course, you can put extra batteries, sunglasses, whatever else in here. So once again, you're on a big day and you're trying to cover some miles or some vertical, and having all this stuff at arm's reach. You've got your gadgets, your drinks, all right at arm's reach. Usually I keep like a couple of snacks in my pockets on my shell pants. You can do the shell jacket too, but you know, in my case, I'm usually putting that into my backpack. So I try not to store anything in my shell jacket because that might not be available. But in my pants, I'll put a few snacks, and then you've got everything you need at basically arm's reach. And then the final thing is shoulder pocket. With this backpack and with most of these backpacks, what I do is I take the clip and I clip it right above the top buckle of the shoulder strap, and that makes it so it can't fall down. And then the bottom buckle is just kind of free floating, but it's not going to go anywhere. So now you can get your inReach or your phone available without having to stop and put anything down. Okay, so that's it. This thing, you'll have to take my word for it, or you can try it yourself. you know, if you get a good backpack with a good suspension, and you know, keep in mind that most of this is just a bunch of down, it actually carries pretty well. And you can be confident that even on a really big day in really harsh conditions, you're gonna have all the extra layers you need to deal with really any kind of emergency. You're gonna need help for sure, right? But while you're waiting around for that help to arrive, you've got everything you can need. Okay, that's it for now. Hopefully it was helpful. Thanks.